World War II, which lasted from 1939 to 1945, was one of the deadliest and most destructive conflicts in history. While the Allies eventually emerged victorious, the war was marked by a range of complex factors that influenced their response to the plight of Jewish refugees seeking sanctuary from Nazi persecution. The refusal to accept more Jewish refugees can be attributed to a multitude of interconnected, historical, political, and humanitarian factors. Pre-war context: Great Depression. The 1930s were characterized by the Great Depression, which left many countries, particularly Western nations, grappling with high unemployment rates and economic instability. In this context, admitting a large number of refugees, including Jews, was seen as potentially exacerbating economic woes. Anti-Semitism. Anti-Semitic sentiments were prevalent in many countries during this era, leading to discrimination and prejudice against Jewish refugees. This discrimination often influenced immigration policies and public attitudes. Immigration restrictions. Prior to the war, several Western countries, including the United States, had established restrictive immigration policies that limited the number of immigrants allowed, including Jews, based on national origin or religion. For example, the Immigration Act of 1924 in the U.S. set strict quotas on immigrants from certain countries. Political consideration. Public opinion. Politicians and policymakers were wary of taking actions that might be perceived as favoring Jewish refugees due to concerns about public opinion. Some believed that admitting more refugees could lead to political backlash or opposition. Fear of espionage. During wartime, there was a genuine fear that accepting refugees, including Jewish refugees, could provide cover for enemy spies and saboteurs, particularly in countries under threat of invasion. Lack of information. Holocaust awareness. In the early years of the war, the full extent of the Holocaust was not widely known. Reports of Nazi atrocities existed, but it was only as the war progressed that the true horrors of the genocide became apparent. Prioritizing the Wehrfahrt. Focus in victory for the Allied nations. The primary goal during World War II was to defeat the Axis powers Germany, Italy, and Japan. Many policymakers believed that diverting significant resources and attention to refugee rescue efforts might detract from their war efforts. Limited resources. The war placed immense demands on resources, including transportation, manpower, and supplies. Allocating these resources to humanitarian efforts, including refugee rescue, was seen as potentially undermining the war effort itself. International Conference. Evian Conference 1938. The Evian Conference, held in France in 1938, showcased the reluctance of many countries to accept Jewish refugees. Despite the plight of German and Austrian Jews, most nations did not significantly increase their refugee quotas. As a result of these factors, the Allies turned away many Jewish refugees who were trying to escape the Holocaust. This is a dark chapter in history, and it is important to remember the lessons of the past, so that we can prevent such tragedies from happening again. In addition to the reasons mentioned above, there were also some specific policies that made it difficult for Jewish refugees to enter Allied countries. For example, the United States had a quota system that limited the number of immigrants from each country. This quota system was biased against Jews, who were only allowed to immigrate in small numbers. The British government also had a policy of turning away Jewish refugees who tried to reach Palestine. This policy was known as the White Paper of 1939. The White Paper limited Jewish immigration to Palestine and called for the creation of a binational state in Palestine. This policy was opposed by many Jews, who saw it as a betrayal. The refusal of the Allies to accept Jewish refugees was a major tragedy. It is estimated that millions of Jews could have been saved if the Allies had been more willing to help. The Holocaust is a reminder of the dangers of prejudice and discrimination. It is also a reminder of the importance of standing up for human rights, even when it is difficult.